Hello, and welcome back to the thearkofe podcast. My name is Noah,
And my name is Gavin.
and we are the Blanchard brothers, back with you after a long time coming. 7 long years for Gavin, a little bit shorter time span for me, but a long awaited new review for you of Den of Thieves, Pantera.
Pantera.
I love that all the marketing still has the 2 on there, but when you sat down, no 2, just the subtitle. Classy. Okay.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna do full spoilers and get into it. I've got a full preamble before we even get into any of that, but we can give some general thoughts here at the top. We've been, I know you've been waiting, you've been itching. We were supposed to record this a little while ago. Got tied up with some other things, but we're here. We're in the den. Let's re-enter the den. I went back, by the way, listened to our previous 2x2 review, which it was paired with the pledge. I skipped that section and went directly to just our convo. That's easily, I don't mean to toot our own horns, but that's easily in my personal favorites, like what I would like for people to be like, if you're going to go check out an episode and you've never listened to one before, that section, I think that's like a highlight reel. That is easily one of my 3 favorite podcasts we've ever done together. Not trying to call any shots for this one, not saying it has to live up to it. I went back and I'm like, that one holds up. It made me laugh listening back to it. So I hope people enjoyed that one. I hope maybe we turned some people onto the movie who didn't check it out before. I know we at least got our mom to watch it. So that's
she
good.
loved it.
Yeah. Like a week ago. And so I guess now she'll get to Pantera whenever it hits Max or wherever it's going to end up. But anyways, okay. The floor is yours, brother. I cede the floor to the den aficionado who brought it to the table, who twisted my arm, and I will be forever thankful for. What did you? General thoughts again, just no details.
I just I I I don't know if I don't know. I don't know what to say as far as like if this is all his vision, but the tone shift, because I feel like the first one was a very like, oh yeah, I've seen Heat and I really like Heat. This is what I would do if I could make Heat. Here it is. There's so many beats that I feel like hit the modern day, like Heat and post Heat action heist movie. But I feel like this goes back to like the 60s and 70s, maybe even like an Ocean's 11 type in some bits with just like how much precision you have to have, so to speak. Not so much the ensemble and the whole group thing, but I thought it was amazing. I just like I would not have like suspected that be where we go. But I'm not mad that's where we went.
Yeah, I would say
And I
that's
can't think that there's any
that
other way to go from where we were to where we are now.
that's kind of the broad take I would offer to anybody who hasn't seen it yet. Before we get into spoilers, is in the same way that maybe the first movie you were like, I think I know what this is, but like it had a little something else up its sleeve. Same thing with the second one, where it's like you kind of think you know what you're getting. We kind of thought we knew what we were getting, but
Hmm.
I was I was surprised in a very in a very positive way.
Yeah,
Um, I I really like this movie. I had a really good time.
good.
Um, one of the I have to also say this is the big caveat. One of the worst theatrical experiences of my life.
Really.
Terrible. Okay, so before we get into any spoilers, little Noah adventures in theater going in the year 2025. Starting off strong. First new movie of the year. When I bought my ticket, no tickets scoped out, you know. I got my prime seat. I was exactly where I wanted to be. I check that night because I'm always curious. I'm like, how packed is it gonna be? Like and I was wanting people to show up for this one. It's playing in the big faux IMAX theater. I'm like, it's the big premiere night. Like, let's see. When I check that evening to go, nobody on my row, but like a smattering of other people. So I'm like, cool, cool, cool. So when I arrive at the theater, go check in my ticket. I go in, I get on my row. I immediately notice, hey, there's a guy on here. I was like, there's no seat sold here. I was like, okay. I start walking, counting the numbers, and I'm like, yeah, that's my seat. That's my seat. This gentleman's probably north of 300 pounds. So as I approached, I was just kind of that's cool, man. And I just sat, I gave a buffer, but I sat one over. It's the big recliner seats.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, no harm, no foul, whatever. Like maybe he was on the row back and decided to move up. So trailer's about to start. His girlfriend comes in and she seems surprised that I'm there. And like she had been sitting on his right side, goes and crosses over and now is going to sit on his left side. I'm like, okay, like whatever, cool. So initially there's some like weird heavy breathing. And I'm just like, is this guy all right? Like, what's going on? I don't know. During the trailers. But nothing to be alarmed about. Movie starts. I swear, Gavin, like maybe like 3 minutes in, boom, this guy is out like a fucking light and like the most full on sleep apnea snoring like you've ever heard. So just okay.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like, yo, is this for real? And part of me is like, dude, is he all right? Like, is he
He's dying in
narcoleptic?
his
Is he
sleep.
is he
He's dying in his sleep like
narcoleptic? Like,
everybody with sleep apnea
what's
does.
like literally like what's happening right now? And obviously, like his girlfriend's there, so I'm like, oh, okay. And like it's continuing, and like it's getting louder and it's getting more intense, and I'm just kind of I'm like rolling with it, but and you know me, like normally. I can just like sink right in. I'm like I'm here for the movie, but it's like it's loud, dude. It's loud. Like people are noticing. So I'm just kind of I look over. Eventually, like she shoves him, but dude, every time she like shoves him awake, it's like babe, babe, like he's up, and then it starts again. And then it's just this escalation to getting back to it. And I'm looking up because again, I'm like, hey, this dude's in my fucking seat. And then it becomes evident, I'm like, I'm pretty sure they were theater hopping. Like they literally just popped in here
Mm-hmm.
and these are the seats they grabbed. And like I'm not making a stink about it, but I am at this point now starting to look over and like kind of like what's going on. And that's when she starts tapping him and then so this continues like throughout the entire runtime of the movie. I
Oh,
go
Jesus.
down to the row below us, gesturing the whole time, like, what the fuck? Like, what? Just wake him up and go. You know what I mean? I'm like, how are you even enjoying the movie at this point? And so I go down to the row below us, and like, it manages to like, you know, the sound's hitting me a little differently in the speakers,
Mm-hmm.
and it's able to like drown him out for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And again, as we get into the movie, like much like the first film, you've got an opening heist that's very exciting, and then you've got an hour of just setup,
Yep.
just like conversations and dialogue and like stuff happening. And like I was so thankful for like the amount of subtitles we had
Right.
throughout the movie where I was just like, oh, thank God. Like I can, but dude, it like I will be honest with you. There may be some moments where I have some like, dude, I totally because there are huge swaths of dialogue that I just full on fucking miss. And I'm very upset about it. I actually wanted to go see the movie again before we recorded this because it was not ideal circumstances. In spite of all of that, I fucking had a great time. And I like, I, I really, really like this movie. But what, seriously, one of the worst theatrical experiences movie go, and I was so excited for it too. I wanted to stand up and like self-righteously be like, I waited 7 years for this motherfucker. But I didn't. So I didn't want to I didn't want to lie, but I should have been like, dude, you're in my fucking seat. Like, just go, like, leave. But that's not, I don't know. I'm
That's
not
not
the
you, and also
confrontation guy.
you're not even 100 pound, 150 pound soaking wet. So like that dude would just sit
Exactly,
on you, and
dude.
it's like,
I'm
oh
just
great,
like, I didn't know what I genuinely, here's what I think it was. I think he went too hard on the edibles.
probably.
I think they were theater hopping, and he was like, dude, Den of Thieves, like, you know, and was gonna, you know, that's all. That's the only thing because I'm just like I'm like, dude, how were you out for that long? And then I should mention, like last 15 to 20 minutes of the movie, he wakes up and I hear them talking. She's like, babe, you've been out like, baby, you've been out like the whole time. And I'm just like, yeah. And like, how were you enjoying the movie? Like, oh, I was so frustrated, man. It was terrible. But let's get into it, man. I
Okay,
so with the caveat that I probably missed some big shit uh at some point.
so
But
okay,
here's
have
the
you?
other thing. I don't think it mattered.
No, no, it
Like
doesn't.
I
No,
don't
no.
think anything I missed was of consequence.
Hmm.
So anyways,
So have you done any research on the film or anything about it? Have you done any background on it at all, or you
s-
just watched it that and said,
I bet I've done the podcast round. So the Ringer they do the rewatchables. They've already covered Den of Thieves, but they did it again, a new updated episode. And Christian Gudegas was actually in the audience, so they throw some questions his way here and there. And then tangentially in like review pods I've listened to, and a little bit of like looking around online, I do know now, and I think we kind of have a map for the franchise going forward that in the same way that he was kind of looking at real heists that had taken place in like real bank robberies, etc., when he was researching the original Den of Thieves. Part of the long gestation period for this, amongst like all of the COVID shutdowns and like Gerard Butler injuries, etc., like long time coming. Uh, there was a huge like research period for this one where he traveled all over the world, like researching these various heists. And so I think now we have a playbook for like where he's going to go. It's like we're going to do like approximations of famous heists in recent history. And it's somewhere in the midst of it is going to be Donnie and Big Nick. And I like that that's where we're headed. So the actual heist that this one is based on, I do not know much about other than
okay,
I
let's
know,
let's start there.
yes,
So
yes.
how we start the movie in Antwerp, Belgium, okay? And it's just the plane heist. Real quick smash and grab with the plane and they make out, no big deal, okay? So the heist that we'll get to.
I do want, I'm sorry, slow down just a smidge. I do want to point out in that opening, we have immediately an inversion of the original. This one goes off without a fucking hitch.
Yep.
Smooth,
Hmm.
smooth, no casualties,
No
no
nothing.
giant firefight in the opening.
Nobody
Immediately, like
that
you're expecting some, again, dude, the tone they set in that first one,
hmm
you're expecting rolling
it's
into two,
it's heat.
you're like, oh, dude, we're gonna like, well, it's heat jacked up to like 11 or 12 with the level of action set piece in relation to the bus grab and everything or the armored car heist in the opening of Heat. I'm
Hmm.
which is an amazing sequence. I'm just saying, like pound for pound, the like level of shootout they get into in the opening of Den of Thieves is
Hmm.
more akin to like the first chunk of the bank shootout at the midpoint of Heat,
Right. And then you
you
ratchet
know,
that up at
in
the
terms
end
of
with like
intensity
a
level.
yeah, you ratchet it
This
up with yeah.
this dials things way, way back to like you were saying, more of an oceans vibe, more of a European
Oh
more
yeah,
like a smooth operator, cool as a cucumber sort of heist where it goes off without a hitch, and all we kind of have is uh, the nugget we get from that is these diamonds that they take and the address on there.
right.
So yes, so the heist at the end of the film that we're building towards this whole time is based on a real heist.
That happened in Antwerp, Belgium in 2003. So it is well, obviously so it's about 20, 21 years old at this point. But it is literally the exact same as what we see in the film. And I just want to we can get into that later, but what I do want to talk about is I just think it's hilarious. The only reason that these guys got caught was one, they did not bust their own vault out. They left that intact. And then when they threw away important things from this robbery, they did it whoever they did, whoever owned the garbage chute thing that they put it in, he immediately called the police. It's like this people were putting trash in my trash, and they came and found the stuff, and it was like, oh, well, this linked back to this dude. I don't know the guy's last name. I just know his first name was Leonardo, so I'm going to call him Leonardo. So when Leonardo goes back to the diamond exchange in Antwerp on the Friday after he's robbed it, and he's like, "Oh, what happened?" They're like, "We know you did this shit. Come here." And they grabbed him there. So had he won, broken his own like vault and made it look like, oh wow, everybody got robbed. And had they not just thrown away stuff willy-nilly that like had kind of names and addresses. Now, granted, he didn't rat on any of his people. There were about five guys that worked with him. Each one had their own specialty. And he did this over a 2 year period. Like he got his vault there. He was there every day for like 2 years, got well known. They put their own security cameras inside there so they could watch what everybody was doing. And they basically pulled some high tech stuff where they were like bouncing infrared beams across places. They did the entire heist in the dark, no lights, nothing at all. They had to like they made a mock version of it and they like practiced in it for so long. But yeah, 2 years. So, you know, basically
all,
into
all
2000,
that
into 2000,
work
yeah,
down the drain over
in
some
like a
dumb
week.
shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
$100 million in diamonds and precious stones, and to this day, not a single one has been uncovered. The guys have all done their time, 10 years plus. Some of them are out, some of them are dead, but none of the diamonds have been recovered, as far as I know.
Oh, okay. I did
Yeah,
not know that
this
element.
no, they didn't.
That's
It's not one of those like, where are they? It's like, oh, I don't know. Like it's so real quick.
Sardinia. They're in
When well,
Sardinia. That's where they are.
well, when she at the end she says, okay, if one of you gets pinched, we're gonna put your share here. You'll get it when you get out. And I was like, oh, well, that's probably what happened in real life. They were like, well, we're all gonna put this somewhere in case we get caught. And of course, the minute the lead
Right.
guy goes down, I'm jumping ship. I'm leaving the country. I'm like, I'm out. I don't need him. I'm gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, crazy. So yeah, what did you think of the fact that I just appreciate this detail? When we see Big Nick again, he's still dealing with the same FBI agent from the first movie. I love that.
So,
That little
okay.
detail was perfect to me.
This this gets into an element that I have mixed feelings and I kind of want to work through them with you on.
Hmm.
Uh, so again, full spoilers at this point. We kind of know where we're going. Um, should, I don't know. Should we talk through the plot and like kind of
Yeah,
where it
yeah,
ends
that's
up?
fine. Yeah.
Because yes, I agree. S- I like having the FBI. Like, dude, I needed him to come back. I needed a
Hmm.
scene with them, but his inclusion leads to a minor sticking point that I think ultimately totally works for me, but I want to pose an alternative to you uh, as we get to it. So again, we have the opening, the setup of like where Donnie's at. He's not in London where we left them, so we get the
Hmm.
idea that like more time has passed, more stuff has gone on. There's probably been some heist in the interim, and he's been building his rep, et cetera, et cetera.
Where he was
So,
just getting all the information like he did
or
at
he's
the house
just,
brow, and he
yeah,
realized, oh, Belgium's where I need to go. That's where this big diamond exchange is to start
right.
with.
I get,
Yeah.
yeah, because we do still have, it's still diamond centric at the end
Yeah,
of the
he's across the
original.
street. He's got
That's right.
that crazy British accent. He's like, you look across the street, the diamond
Yes.
exchange.
So
Like, yeah,
they
he's doing
drop
his
that
best
rough
Jason Statham.
British accent in favor of I think a more manageable French accent for him. Like, or
Hmm.
is he supposed to be French or like South African? Where is he
South
supposed to?
or Algerian, some country
I think he's supposed
somewhere.
to be
Yeah,
Algerian. Yeah. So
yeah.
like light French accent. It's definitely more in his closer to his wheelhouse. I thoroughly enjoyed O'Shea throughout this movie. Uh so and in the opening we have the voiceover from, is it Cleopatra,
Hmm.
who's going to be kind of our sensible third lead, kind of in this position that Donnie was in the first movie, if you kind of want to think of
Right.
it in those
Hmm.
terms. And so we've got that getting set up. Then we're cross-cutting all over the place, which
Hmm.
is very, very Michael Mann, just all of this will make sense later. Uh, we catch up with Big Nick in family court.
Hmm.
We don't see the ex-wife or daughters, I think we talked in that cast when I listened back where I was like, you could lose all this stuff, but in rewatching it, like a week
The
ago, I was like, I love all this shit. No,
the
keep it all
except
in.
the only problem that literally only creates one continuity problem. They say, all right, we'll see you at 8. Like they're gonna meet up at 8 o'clock to go mount up to go get these guys. But he's at his daughter's school before this, and he's like, recess is over, come on in. I'm like, okay, you're trying to tell me this is the same day that he goes? Like you don't let me know this is the afternoon before. Like show me a scene of him getting up the next day to go do this because you're trying to tell me that like these kids have recess at like 7:30 in the morning. Is that what we're doing? Is that
It's
what happens
more,
in LA?
it's morning break, dude. I don't know. They're on a
That's
different,
the only a line change of okay, class is about to start. Come on in. That's all you had to say. But lady comes out and says recess is over, and you're like, okay. But I
totally
swear to God,
takes you
I s-
right out of it.
yeah. Well, I
What a
swear to
shame.
God, it's the same school that Velcoro's kid goes to. It
We
looks like the
talked
same
about
exact
this.
school.
Go back and listen to the episode. We had this
Yeah.
exact same conversation.
Okay, we
Okay.
did. Great. Okay.
So,
But that was my only problem with the kids thing. You could totally remove him and it'd be fine. But like, you don't see that. You don't see like, oh, this guy's been like cheating on his wife and like, oh man, this is crazy. This
well,
is how
again,
close to being bad he is. Like,
well, yeah, the we need the
the
dirtbag,
the human
Big
element.
Nick. We need it in there. But I mean, he's a piece of shit all the way down, which is what I mean. We'll get
Yeah.
there. Okay, so like we said, I mean, the first chunk again is a lot of just like machinations of we don't know how all the pieces are gonna line up, but we see the kind of heist emotion, and eventually Big Nick shows up. Now we know already because of his interaction with the FBI and the whole like I need to get certified to get jurisdiction to be able to like continue this case, to see it
Mhm.
through to the end. And so we know going in that he's going undercover. And this is what I want to ask you about. As much as I love seeing the FBI, what if we hard cut from like family court to boom, he's just there. He doesn't we don't see him again until he shows up at Donnie's place, you know.
No, we got to
We don't
we still got to have him go into the stripper to figure out where Donnie went. That's what we need that at least. You don't need the
for
FBI, but
okay,
go
for
to
sure.
the stripper
But
to figure out how.
that's what I'm saying. If we
Yeah.
remove the element of we know his intention is he's going in
Right.
undercover
Hmm.
and we just have him show up and that's the gauntlet. Does the does the ending and where this thing ends play better or worse? And I came out while I was judging this in the moment, I came out on no, and it leads into my whole thing. Everybody online has been comparing this movie to Ronin. Okay,
You can't not. You
it's
have to.
not. No,
You have
it's not.
to.
But it's not
You,
Ronin.
I know it's not Rona, but you can't put the. Okay, the
It's not.
only the only other movie that shoots the city of Nice and has a better like cinematic explanation of Nice is Ronin. Like as soon as I was like, oh, they're going to Nice, I was like, there better be a fucking car chase on that road.
And
And it better
boy,
be better than Ronin.
and boy is there. Okay,
Yes, so
but
like there's expectations. There's expectations when you put your heist movie
but I and
in Nice.
I
You have to,
understand that. I
you know.
understand that. But this is what unlocked it for me. And I texted you it, and you said I couldn't do a public review. So what I settled for was sending you a very simple three-part text. Miami Vice 2006.
Hmm.
He's doing man again, dude. But it's
That's okay.
we know
Because
he's here.
hmm
Go with me here,
yes, I'm.
okay? And you're sitting there going like, yeah, dude, right? Because of the buddy cop element of like where they go with him and Donnie. No, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. Because of the undercover element. That Big Nick is Sonny Crockett,
Yeah,
but Donnie is not Tubbs. Donnie is Gong Li. Do you get
makes
it
sense.
now?
That makes sense,
Do
dude.
you get it now?
Makes sense, dude.
It's like
Because Gong
he
Li is not
knows and
violent. Yeah, and
he
so is
knows
Donnie.
in
Donnie's
his
not violent.
he
Yeah,
knows in his heart of heart
he can't be
that
with
like
his. Yes,
he's gonna get betrayed by him, but he wants to live in the like, but what if? But what if we could just be bros here, man? What if we could just like make it
that's
work?
completely. Oh my god, that is
And
fuck.
that's what makes the ending so heartbreaking in the same way that when you get to the end of Miami Vice, it's like he fucking saved her life, but like they can't be together because of it.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, ah. Um,
Because okay, yeah, when they were doing the heist, and like the entire time that Donnie's like, and the cop goes gangster. You're right. In my own mind, because I say this to myself sometimes when I start thinking about stuff like this, cops, robbers, thieves, all that. In my mind, and sometimes I'll just say it out loud because it sounds cool. It's like, man, there is undercover, then there is which way is up. Like that's just I say that shit all the time when I think about stuff. And I was repeating that on my like every couple of minutes in my head watching this. I was like, bro, Nick is getting into it. But again, in the back of my mind, I know that like law enforcement knows he's there. The whole name, the subtitle Pantera refers to the group of, you know, that was the code name of the group that was going after them was Pantera, like the task force Pantera to go track down these jewel thieves. Like it's all there, and of course we get the whole let me go check him out. Nah, it doesn't look like my guy. I don't think that's him. I don't think these guys are anything. So it's like, oh, he uses the cops to find out where he is. But of course, he's not going to tell them, oh, yeah, that's my dude, because then they can step right in. And, he works his way, finds out that we've already said it, but like after the Antwerp heist on the plane, everything goes smoothly. Donnie goes to Nice. He gets set up, watching everything. And, he's working the angles, being seen, kind of planting the seeds, much like the real life heist that we discussed earlier. And I just hope he comes home one day and it's like, boom. Nick's just eating a steak. He's got a bottle of bourbon, just hanging out in his house, like waiting on him and whatnot.
no. And then we get into something that, in when you're watching the first movie and you don't know where it's ultimately headed, you are a little more focused on the Schreiber Butler dynamic.
Yeah.
But I think back to it's the scene where they bring in Donnie and they like fucking rough him up when the whole gang is like sitting
They're in the hotel
around.
room.
Yes. And
Yeah.
they're just berating him, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, that's really, you know, one of the big scenes you get between the two of them. And it's like there is a little there's something there. Like you see the spark of like, I think these guys I think these guys have a bit of chemistry. And it's definitely like as you see it on the press tour for that movie and then the press tour for this one, it's like they they realize like this would be an interesting dynamic. And so yes, like you said, he injects himself into it. We get a great sequence where it's like he meets the crew and they go out, dude, the the Molly sequence,
Oh my
like
God.
I was dying. I mean, the whole fuck NATO speech, like all of that stuff leading into them drunkenly hopping on scooters, like tearing through the town. They end up like having a drink and then having their backstories, which I did read was something that Guteguest like had for the first movie but couldn't figure out how to fit it in.
And I think it's
And
perfect that you let it happen now. I mean, there's no
this is
point to
some
put it in the first one.
this is something I gotta ask you about. So I heard all of Donnie's story, the whole just like I had to walk 3 miles to magnet school and like
That
just
last mile, everything started getting nice. So I just want to see if I could see if I could.
and so
Yeah.
basically how he
That is
started to
that.
train
Listen,
his
listen.
brain even as a young kid of like how he can do what he does now. And I thought
Right.
that was a great setup. What I need to ask
That is
you,
that. But that is to me. That is the best. The action is the Jew speech, and that I've heard since Heat, because it tells you everything you need to know. Because he says, I'm not gonna stop. I've always been this way. I want to push myself further to see if I can do it. And again, he's not violent. It was all the only reason he took all that to Merriman was because he knew if you had to muscle up, get these Marsoc Marines to do it. He wasn't in
right,
the Marines that long, and so you see there that like it isn't just he's not, even though it's a den of thieves, he's not like a deplorable thief. Yes, he's stealing precious stones, but he's not killing anyone,
right,
you know? Like these guys that did the real heist, they didn't kill anyone, you know? They took something that wasn't theirs. Yes, I hate a thief, whatever, but they got away with it. And they probably didn't do it for money. I mean, the guy Leonardo came out later and said, "Oh no, we this was all part of an insurance fraud. Somebody hired us so they could claim insurance against it." But they're like, "No, that wasn't actually what happened." Like they knew he was trying to do it to see if he could. And it's exactly what Donnie says. I'm never going to stop because I'm just going to always want to see if I can do it.
yeah.
That's where I get it. That's for me. That's why the action is the juice. Then you get Nick's story.
This is what I needed to ask you about. Just basically, can you run it down for me? Because I could not hear most of Nick's response.
So
I, yeah,
Nick Nick's dad. No, sorry. So Big Nick explains that his dad always ran like a deli or grocery store
it
or
was his
something.
dad. Okay,
Yeah,
that
and
was what I needed to clarify. But
his
please tell
dad
the
kept a
story for me.
38 under the counter all the time. And someday some punk comes in and you know they must have assumed that his dad was going to go for it and shoot him, so they shot his dad. But his dad survived, and he watched his dad basically hobble to work for the rest of his life. Bitter and whatever. And so he joined the police and he said, I looked into it. I could never find those guys. Don't know what happened. It was whatever, whatever. So you see that like his drive is like anytime somebody does something to break a law, he knows that it's not just breaking the law, that it's even if the person isn't actually killed, they're still affected and their family's affected. And one choice can have repercussions, like a ripple in a river. It just can manifest and go all over the place. So like his compulsion is like it doesn't matter that you pulled off the perfect crime, Donnie. He finally finds out in this conversation, oh, okay, so you robbed the Fed, but you robbed the money no one was looking for. That's why all their books are fine. That's why no one's coming after you. But I don't you got over on me, and I don't like people getting over on me because people got over on his dad once. And that forced him to watch his dad walk to work with a limp for the rest of his life and never be the man he was before this happened to him.
Hmm.
So all that instills in Nick is I need to grow up, get a badge, and I'm just going to start putting bad guys away. No one's going to do this to anybody else. I'm not going to let anybody else hurt somebody's family the way that these guys that I don't know who they are, they never were brought to justice. That's why I always got to get my man because I couldn't get those guys that got my dad before I was a cop. And after I became a cop, I couldn't get him either. So that's the itch on my shoulder, the monkey on my back. That's like, I got to do this. I got to see it through because I got to make sure
Well,
justice is there.
and leading into his whole thing of, and this time nobody gets hurt because, of course, he lost two guys in the first movie, or just the one, just lost Baracho.
Roger, that's it.
That's it. But
Mm-hmm.
obviously, he had the other guys that were injured. But yeah, he lost a guy last time, and he
Mm-hmm.
literally lost his man when Donnie got away.
Mm-hmm.
So
He also got shot in the hand too. I forgot about that.
yeah. So again, nobody gets hurt this time. Now let's think about that. Nobody of consequence, quote unquote, gets hurt by the end of this because they pretty much pull it the fuck off. And I want to talk about the heist itself, but like we of course do. We need a shootout, and we do have some bad guys. Basically, the crew that like are kicked out. That was the other thing I was asking. Is it the culmination of the club scene before they go out on the scooters, where it's like there's already the tension between because Big Nick and Cleopatra are vibing, and then there's the old boyfriend who kind of gets
Mm-hmm.
in his face.
Who was part of the group? Yeah.
Yes, but they bail at the end of that sequence. Is that right? Like those guys leave the crew, right? At a
Yeah, they're
certain
done.
point.
They're done with it.
Right. But that I'm saying that's when they bail. It's over that that
Hmm.
shit and that scuffle there. Okay.
Yeah.
That another thing that I lost in this incredible sleep apnea session that this guy was having. Okay. So those guys, of course, show up. They try and pull off a double cross later because we want to have, well, we need a firefight. We're owed one. We need
Hmm.
we need something. Okay. So those guys get ice, but like thing goes off without a hitch. The movie ends how it ends. But somebody does get hurt. Donnie gets hurt, man. He gets hurt.
Yeah. All day.
They had something, bro.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like I thought they nailed the perfect level of like not dipping into like Fast and Furious like family bullshit. Uh but just having these guys like genuinely like just relate to each other, and it's, it is what it is. Like it's still coded in a lot of, at least on like Butler's side, a lot of like machismo and all of that sort of shit. And but yeah, I like that we took this midsection to like deepen the story of these two dudes.
Hmm.
Uh Maybe at at the same time I'm like I might have wanted a little bit more with the crew, a little bit more expansion than, but the little taste that we get, I think, are like pretty effective. Although at the end, there's two people that I'm kind of like, well, shit, are they just in the wind? Like they're fucking, or not in the wind, but like, so they're still locked up, as far as I could tell.
Yeah.
They didn't get a secret escape hatch. So, okay. I also like, again, you want to like poke plot holes, you could do it if you want to, but why the hell they let a cop in this like whole circumstance to begin with? Why any of them are okay with this is ridiculous. Like the fact that he is not just like
Well,
executed
here
almost
it is.
immediately.
But in order for them to get into the vault, whoever's going with you, your private security, has to be a cop
I
or a
for
former cop. That's the one. Now, is that true?
I
I have no
for
idea.
I
But like,
forgot that they built that in. That's some great plot armor.
yeah.
Excuse me. Excuse the plot holes. You had the vest on. Excuse me. I'm taking pot shots here. I'm fucking
Hmm.
up. So the
Because no one
heist,
has to know. No one has to know about him at all. He doesn't have to say like, "Oh yeah, this guy caught me. Like he was trying to catch me when remember when I did that thing in L.A. Like he was trying to get me. He couldn't." But Donnie just brings him in like this is the dude. Like we got to have a cop here. He's gonna be the guy. He's got the credentials. We're gonna roll with it. You know.
yeah. So anything else like big before the heist? Other
Again,
than, well, excuse me, we haven't talked about the Sardinian element,
right.
which
So,
is that basically the whole reason that they have to do this like essentially heist within a heist that they were already planning is that they stole the wrong diamonds. And this I needed a little bit of clarification on. So the diamonds in question that belong to uh which mafia is this? Is this like old school like Cosa Nostra?
like the mafia.
Okay, this
Like
is
it started their mafia.
right. So
Right.
basically they stole the wrong stones in the opening, that package, but they needed that to know where the diamond exchange, like where all of these are headed
Right.
to get the setup to get him in place, et cetera, et cetera. But in the process, they stole a very particular stone that was very important to basically like the king shit Don, of this family.
Hmm.
So they fucked up unbeknownst to them. So it's basically like, hey, you got to go steal this thing or we're going to kill you. So we have that whole element introduced where those guys in parallel have been tracking Donnie and eventually take him Big Nick. They drop him out in the ocean, there's that whole thing.
Hmm.
And then they do we could have maybe done without the little 5 to 10 minutes there where it's like, oh, I'm not doing it. I'm out, blah, blah, blah. And then literally the next scene, it's like, you feeling it? It's like, yeah, I'm feeling it. And I'm like, guys, we could have just cut time feeling it. Like, we didn't need the whole denial of the call. Like, we knew you were going to do it. So, Uh,
Especially because he's like, oh, they go after families. It's like, what, dude? Like, you were just in court and your family wasn't even there. Like, as far as they're concerned, if they looked in records, like, you don't have a wife and child. Like, you're just by yourself. But I
yeah,
get it. I get it. You know.
it's enough motivation, I guess. For
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So yeah, and then we get into the heist, which, like you said, is based on an actual one, and also to me, having watched it, I think early 2024, there's a lot of Rafifi in here,
Yeah.
uh, and I dug it. I dug it a lot. It manages to be that like nice mix of low tech, high tech, same
Hmm.
time where it's like what they're doing is like pretty ingenious, which is like they have the timing of the CCTV cameras mapped out so that they're going to basically move between the edits. Like when the cameras shift is when they move. And I feel like I've seen this in something else. Maybe it's not like jumping to mind, but I've seen the concept essentially of like fooling working in the negative space, but I thought this was like really cool execution, looks stylish as all hell. And the fact that again, it's going so well for so long, you're like, I thought the level of tension in this one, while again, I think the whole, I've gotten way, sorry, you and I haven't talked since I rewatched Den 1 in
Hmm.
prep for Den 2. I've gotten a little bit more hyperbolic about it. The last hour of that movie is a fucking masterpiece.
Oh,
Like
dude.
it's so good. It's so like, and again, I love that it is this big sprawling thing that like big opening action, long middle section, and then it just like does all of this setup so that it can just coast for like an hour of just like, you know, you're just in it. Like, and this goes again for a different vibe. It's this like low key sustained tension of
Hmm.
just like I said, it's going so well. Like when is it gonna go wrong?
Right.
How is it gonna get fucked up? And you're just like, I personally I was on the edge of my seat like the whole time of just like, dude, I want to see him put this like this is what you go to the movies for, dude. This is what you go to this type of like
Hmm.
heist thriller for. It's just like, oh my God, are they gonna do it? Are they gonna do it? And again, watching it go off without a hitch is almost as satisfying as the like, oh shit, we had to improv. And we talked about this a little bit uh in our original Den episode in relation to Heat, where all the comparisons are. Heat never has a moment where it's like, let's lay out the bank heist. Here's everybody's positions. We don't have that setup scene. There's
Right.
not that element to the execution. There is just these guys are fucking professionals and we're just watching them work. We're not
Right.
privy to any of the setup or the planning or rehearsal or like blah, blah, blah. We see like vague little clandestine elements of it in the same way that you do in Den. But what's cool is, like you said, bringing in that more fun, oceansy side of heist, the more Donnie side, which is like you want to have the cool planning sequences. And I like that there's a nice mix of like, we kind of know the vague setup of what we're going to do. They haven't told us like every detail, so there's still some like fun discovery in the moment. But it's like that's the that's the way for this to kind of, find its own little niche outside of just being baby heat, which everybody wanted to set it up to be, which is like, if they're going to continue this as a franchise and continue to play with these different real world heists, getting to actually see, again, be in the den for the planning
Right.
and maybe as we move forward, not make it so much, if Big Nick's involved, which I assume he will be, but we kind of moved beyond the traditional cops and robbers element of the first one in this, where
Hmm.
it's like we have the undercover element now and everything, but it's like we're fully in where it's like we don't have to split time. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like in the way that like in the same way with Heat, there's not the real estate to show you all of Neil's crew and their planning because we also got to spend time with the cops trying to undo everything.
Right.
So now that we're like fully going deeper into this criminal underworld, I like the idea of like, okay, yeah, do Ocean's 11 level planning and heist with like a little bit of Mission Impossible thrown in there, but
Hmm.
then the like muscular action filmmaking of, a Michael Mann or, you know, maybe more like a Jeremy Saulnier sort of like. I like that this one also the action felt different. Like it didn't
So,
feel like the
be
first one. And
because
not in
the
a
first,
bad way at all.
right, but that's the thing. That's a perfect thing to hit on because Heat and Den of Thieves, it's cops and robbers. This is bad guys versus bad guys. So you don't feel bad when they got to be like, they're coming up real quick. All right, word. Because when they're in that Porsche, it's like, oh, they're coming up quick. All right. And they're
So
handing weapons over and stuff and they're getting ready to rock and roll. I'm thinking of like Merriman. He's like, all right, you'll give him 50 cents. Like,
complete,
give my vest. Give my
yeah.
vest. Like, it's like, I'm like, I go back to those vibes like, oh shit, they're about to throw down. And of course, you know, boom, everything, opening up in a
Okay.
car, just going
Before
crazy.
before
Like,
so before we get to that, the only real hitch is that Big Nick gets stuck on the roof. Like the
right.
pole, I love that again after all of this like grand planning and everything, it's a pole dropping to the ground through the frame of one of
Yeah.
the security cameras that catches the eye and like, oh shit, what are we gonna do? And I'm like, oh dude, they're busted. He goes in, I'm like, oh dude, he's gonna have to kill somebody, and then I'm like, oh nope, just like shot him directly in the vest. Like that dude's good. He gets out. They get in the cars, dude. The sequence of them like stripping the cars, like
Peeling it. Yep.
peeling the
From
paint
the white to
off,
the, yeah.
and then just in and out, dude. I was like, dude, this is so again just satisfying. Sometimes it's satisfying to just watch the thing happen without a hitch. And
Hmm.
again, they kind of they get through all of this, and you're like, dude, okay, when's it coming? And then there's nobody on the road. They're like, those aren't police headlights. Like, oh shit. And I'm like, dude, okay, we're about to rock and roll. And it delivered, man. I mean, they
Yeah.
teased this in the trailer, but this whole car shootout, uh, something we didn't, again, inverting the ending a little bit. The first one ends in gridlock traffic. There's
Right.
no driving, there's no car chase.
For Don,
After
you got
all
Donnie, who's the wheel
Again,
man. Yeah.
exactly. After that great setup scene where you have Donnie like showing off for Merriman, and it's like, oh, dude, this guy can drive. It's like he never actually really gets to drive
No,
in the
not at all.
movie.
No.
And so, what a great, like, hey, we finally get to like let him have his moment. And I did read up on the behind the scenes of this because I was like, this is one of those where you're like, how the fuck are they getting these shots, these like continuous shots, where I'm like, it looks like O'Shea is driving right now
Hmm.
and it looks like Gerard is like hanging out the window, but like how is this possible? Like they wouldn't let him do this. And apparently they took these Porsches that are I guess most of them are decommissioned now, or it's like the production line is done.
Hmm.
Only like four of them left. And they basically made a driver's seat in the roof. So the driver for the car is mounted in the center and
Hmm.
he's doing all of that stunt work like from the roof of that fucking
Oh
Porsche
shit.
on a driver's seat. I
Dude, how
haven't
do
seen
you,
the rig itself. I've
I
just
want to
heard it
see it, dude. I look,
described, but yeah,
that's,
I cannot wait for the behind the scenes. But yeah, just a great chase that gets that nice, just gorgeous wide shot of the car flipping over the side, which of course is in the trailer, but like totally paid off here.
and again, they show you every bit. I don't know if this is they meant to or not, but every sequence of the Ronin car chase, they show you that in establishing shots throughout this movie, which I can appreciate because that's if it wasn't for Ronan, none of us in the movie will know the city of Nice, know the significance of it, anything like that. Thank you. Rest in peace,
And I
John
forget,
Frankenheimer, all
and
that.
of
But
course
like,
there is a lot of Ronin in here because again, spoilers for Ronin, but isn't De Niro is ultimately he's CIA, right? Or at least we
ex-CIA.
we think he's, but don't we?
He was a company man at one point. That he has to call in a favor from an old company friend to help him get Gregor's satellite
Okay,
phone.
but the
Yeah.
implication is not. that he's there on behalf of the
No,
CIA.
he
He's
was
there on this.
burned. He was
Okay.
burned by the CIA. That's
Okay.
why he has no
I couldn't
master. He
remember
has
if
to
that
just do
was
his
the
own
ult.
thing.
Gotcha. I couldn't remember if that
Yeah.
was the ultimate reveal. Was like he was
Hmm.
the deep, deep cover because he
Yeah,
needed to be there for that
dude.
particular thing.
If they could have gotten him and Jean Reno to just be having a coffee in a restaurant as the sun's going down, or they're just like sitting next door to them in the morning having a coffee, something like when they're out partying, like they they fall over a car and like De Niro and him were just kind of in the car talking and something to throw back to Rona. I would have loved it, but I understand you can't. But again,
Yeah.
it's
So
one of these where like you're you're so dialed in that like even if that I'm saying it in hindsight, if that had happened there, I'd have been like, okay, this is a little tongue in cheek here. I don't need this. So as much as I'm like, oh, that'd be great if that happened, that's just the film person to me. I don't want that in real life. Like that would have taken me out of the movie. It wouldn't have been as good if you're like, what the hell are these two doing here? You know? But it's
yeah,
one of those where just because of the location, you think, oh man, because not I don't think like Ronin gets talked about enough. And I feel like those who know it, know how great it is. But try telling that to somebody who's never seen it, never heard of it. They're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
yeah,
But again, even if they're doing all that stunt work, the car chase is still amazing, as far as I'm concerned.
absolutely. A great payoff to again because you have the more low key heist. It's like you're kind of sitting there in the back of my head. I'm like, dude, I know there's a car chase coming up. Like it was in the
Gotta
trailer.
be.
Like
Yeah.
I know there's something coming. I know we're not getting
Hmm.
out of this scot free. But nobody gets killed
Nope.
except for the bad guys that we don't care about. And
Hmm.
again, seemingly goes off without a hitch. We have our equivalent of our let's go stand by the fountain in Vegas at the end of Oceans, but
Hmm.
instead it gets interrupted by the cops. They come rushing in. And it's like we knew it. I knew it. I knew it the whole time, but I let myself get fooled for just a little bit that that motherfucking tiger could change his motherfucking stripes. But no, absolutely not. And again, the look of like not even betrayal, but just like god damn, like I knew it. I kind of knew it the whole time that they have between the two of them. And again, Cleopatra, who he's like, they kind of do the bird. I like that they didn't go too hardcore with like
Yeah,
the she's
that
just
was
instantly in love with him. I like that they kind of pumped the brakes on that. But to that extent, it's like we have her and the dude from I believe he's in Gamora, the series. He looked very
yeah,
familiar to
yeah,
me.
yeah. I think yeah.
And then the one guy who does anybody from the crew get killed? Or they just all go down at the end. There's the one uh tech or explosives guy who
Hmm.
who was on Gangs of London.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know who you're talking about. I remember the face, and I was like, oh wait a
Yeah.
minute, I know that dude from
I
there. Yeah.
enjoyed him because it was a nice, like, different vibe. He wasn't playing the heavy, like,
Right.
he could have been that other role of the dude who's in Gamora that I'm referring to. Uh, but yeah, a lot of faces that I recognize and people I've seen on TV, but like a nice smattering of that guys. It was cool. And so yeah, they go down as expected, ultimately. I'm like, all right, fucking Big Nick. And then we get the showdown scene between them, and I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm glad O'Shea says what we're all thinking, which is like, yeah, dude, you're a piece of shit. Like, what the hell? Like, I had all this set up. You just come in, you just wreck all my shit. What for you? Like, so you can feel better about yourself? And the whole like all right, it's time for you to come home, Nick. It's like, to what? And it's like, yeah, I love that he finally has that realization that's like, oh, yeah, maybe I did kind of like that shit. Maybe it was fun, like having a friend, and maybe I did find like a new form of camaraderie with this guy, and, you know, but I threw it all away. And then, and I'm like, dude, you know what? All right, this is a little frustrating. Like, I kind of wish we didn't know that he was going undercover. And grr, grr, grr. And then he drops a little hint. He tells him sit on the left side. I'm like, okay. And he bails him out. Transport's coming by. The chopper comes down. Donnie gets bailed. They take him to Sardinia, and the reveal is like, "Oh, you got my stone back?" He's like, "You work for me now." And I'm like, "All right, three is set up. I had a great time. I had a great time. I had a great time.
Okay,
Good,
so
good
I
enough. Hold
okay.
on, hold on." I'm like, "Fair enough. Good. I had some quibbles. Blah blah blah." Okay, how do I feel about how I feel about it? All of a sudden, very familiar tones start coming in, and I'm like, wait a second. Are they doing what I think they're doing? And then motherfucking Christian Gudegas drops M83's outro, and I'm on the verge of tears watching
Dude,
Tenebris Pantera, and I almost stood up and applauded when the credit hits and the crescendo happened, and I was just like, all is forgiven, dude. All is forgiven. Like, what, dude? Music is truly magical, dude. I literally, I literally walked out of that movie and I was like, dude, every movie should end like this.
dude,
Every
think
fucking
of
movie should
think of
end like
every
this.
terrible movie you've ever seen and think about like, could M83's outro
Dude,
from Hurry Up We're Dreaming, the album from like 20 years ago, should that be at the end of this movie? And the answer is always
exactly.
going to be yes.
You know how people always do the Linkin Park Michael Bay. What
Da-da-da.
I've
Jum,
done.
jum, jum, jum. Yeah.
I want way more recuts of yes, just put outro on the end of anything and make that crescendo hit right as your directed by hits. It probably improves like
Dude,
virtually every single movie.
think of the end of A New Hope, Star Wars. Just as soon as they all stand up at attention and doom, 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 and yeah, it'd
Dude,
be dude, everything, man.
what a cheat code. But no, as soon as
Yes.
he dropped, I was like, dude, because that's when I knew I was like, dude, we've fully transcended. Because like I said, I went hard on the Den rewatch. I was like, dude, I love this movie. Like this is going to be a staple
Dude, we
now.
watched it again fucking Friday
But the
night before we
one
went and
thing
saw it.
when that credit hits and we're gonna be legends, like some fucking fart rock, like new metal
Yeah.
bullshit. I hate it, and I'm like, dude, that's so not the movie you just made. And this is like, I was like, nah, dude, this is what you should be
Okay,
striving for.
okay. So everybody's
This
talking about how
is
this is
Michael
more.
Mann dropping Mogwai at the end of Miami Vice
Oh yeah,
2006.
of
Like
course,
this is dropping Auto Rock to close out that movie.
dude.
That's where I was just like, dude, it is Miami Vice. It's not Ronin. It's Miami Vice. Trust me.
But you gotta think about it. They talk about like, oh wow, this movie costs just like 10 million more than like the original. I'm like, well, I know where 5 million of it went. It was the music rights because
The
that ain't
music,
cheap.
you know, on that level, so much better in this movie. I mean, we
Yeah,
got Everlast in the first film, but
dude.
hey.
I mean, what can you say? I mean,
But yeah, I had a great time. Fuck that dude with this sleep apnea.
yeah,
Uh, I may still actually go see it again in theaters before it's out because
hell yeah, dude.
what a good time. And
You
yeah,
should
I know,
no, you
like
know
I
what you
said,
should
I
have
know
done?
there was
You
some
should have
minor.
stepped to that dude and be like, yo, bro, I don't appreciate you popping off. I'm coming here for a good time. I don't appreciate you popping off.
You're in my seat.
You're in
Fucking
my fucking seat. And you'd be like, I only come here for the ass.
exactly, exactly. Okay, any okay here I do have this to contribute. I think I screen capped a couple. I didn't want to send them to you because we were trying not to spoil each other's experiences,
But can I just
etc.
say real quick? There was maybe 4 people in the theater with me and Becky and Sumter. I'm just granted we went at like a 3 o'clock matinee on a Saturday. So, or no, was it Sunday? I think yeah, we went Sunday. We went on Sunday. So like yeah, it was like the but we got lucky because both Nosferatu and this one were in like the two bigger theaters in the Beacon. So I was pretty excited about that. All right, what have you got for me?
Oh, well, so I intend, or, we'll see if I stick to it. I'm on Letterboxd. I probably mentioned it before. It's Noah's Ark of E if you want to follow me.
Hmm.
Get a preview of the pods, etc. You can also follow us on Instagram at the Ark of E Network and on our forthcoming YouTube channel, which I'm in the process of uploading our whole archive to. It's a whole thing. Once it's all up there, then I can publish that feed and it'll be a whole thing. So more on that coming in future episodes. But
Are you going to go back and have AI make conversations of us? Like, have AI make the video of you and I talking?
absolutely not.
Oh, okay. That'd be cool. Like, we can make our own little avatars and you can be like, this is the two of them talking in the room. It'd just be weird, wouldn't
I mean, that's a thought.
it?
That's a thought. That's a lot of rendering to do 2 hour podcasts,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Content's content, baby.
We're gonna keep this one pretty short though. Okay.
Okay.
But anyways, my musing was Den 1 Heat, Den 2 Miami Vice. So Den 3, a collateral Black Hat mashup with Big Nick and Donnie trapped in a car while executing an elaborate tech heist. What do you want for 3? That's my question. Where do they go? What country do you want? Do you have a heist in mind? Do you have a style of heist? Other movies that you'd like to see referenced or brought into the fold? And more importantly, is it these two guys? Obviously, we have the continuing story of Donnie. Like he's out, you know, and now he's going to be commissioned by he's going to be doing work for the mafia, which could send him pretty much anywhere. I don't know how we get Big Nick back into the mix, but I guess my question is, third movie out, is it time to bring in, an interesting heavy, an interesting bad guy in the mix, or
Okay.
or a new law enforcement agent of some sort to maybe be the
Okay.
antagonist for round 3 while we keep Butler on the sideline but tease Big Nick's return in some capacity in 4, because I got to be honest, I want one of these every 2 to 3 years
Since Mission Impossible's going away. I get it. Okay.
if
So the
they're
third.
willing to do it, because this is like now 2 movies in, one of my favorite new franchises in action movies.
So I think the third one should be Donnie is sent to some country to do a job for whatever. Donnie is sent to the European country that is offering the most tax incentives to anybody to
I
film.
got it. I got it. No, I have my answer. You give me yours, but yeah.
I mean, okay, dude, if I'm being honest, this
I
is
just
complete.
basically wrote it. Sorry. You can give me yours in a second because I don't want you to steal it. Okay. They're not in a car. They're not in a car. They're in a big rig truck carrying a lot of dynamite.
Bro, don't even
just
try.
just remake Sorcerer with Gerard Butler and O'Shea Jackson Jr. Stuck in the cab the whole time. Tensions rise. Like, let's just do it. Let's just do it. Then
Okay,
then 3 Sorcerer.
yeah, okay.
That's the answer. That's the only answer.
Um, if I'm being honest, this is just because, and it wouldn't work here, and this is the only thing I hate, is that like we either have to turn Donnie, flip him over a little bit, and add another layer to him, or we have to get somebody else to step in here. But like, I feel like because we can go globetrotting now, this gives me my way in to get my Kane and Lynch and Hong Kong. They've been double crossed and they got to fight their way out. But Donnie can't do that because he's not a killer. We've already established this. So, but I don't want it to be like
But no, I think
Gerard Butler having to pull him through like shooting and going crazy. But like my original pitch was going to be this: the mob boss sends him on a job there and the heist gets blown up. We don't see it. We start with like, hey, you guys, you fucked us, you got burned. Everybody in Hong Kong knows you tried to do this or wherever you are, some, a big city with a lot of neon and it's raining and they're gritty on the ground, wherever that is. And it's like, you guys are burned. Fuck you. You're done. Don't come back here. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever happened and where they were supposed to get, they couldn't. And they got to fight their way out and escape And then we see in reverse what they missed from the heist midway through, how they fucked it up. And then the third act is, but you know what? It's still in play. Let's go get it. And let's, you know, this is our ticket out of this country. This is our ticket back into good graces kind of thing. That really wouldn't work because it's not really focusing on the heists. And then it
You
forces
know,
Donnie to become this character that he's really not. Or he is that guy, but he's just in control of everything. So he could throw down and pop off. He didn't do anything to Big Nick. He's been letting Big Nick think he's the strong, silent type and the smart type. But he really could throw down and like gunplay with the best of them, but he just hasn't shown anybody that because he's in control of his element at all times. And he hasn't ever had to actually do that in any situation. He played it stupid and played it cool in the first one. He knew where he was at in the second one and knew that he could let Big Nick do the heavy lifting and be the cop and be in charge. But he's always been able to like head on a swivel, Val Kilmer from Heat, just boom, boom, boom. But he's never had to. And now in the third movie, this is the final version of him we see. And it's like, oh, Donnie's actually a badass. It's an earned thing. Because like you mentioned Fast and Furious and the family aspect all of a sudden in like the latter half of that franchise, they just like, oh, they're just superheroes. They just do shit. They
every
no expert.
single one of them
Yeah,
is like a
no,
martial arts expert of some
yeah,
degree that can throw
except
down and
for
fight.
what's her face from Game of Thrones. Like she's a computer whiz, and so is Ludacris, and that's it. But the rest of them, like they can all fight, they can fly spaceships, they can shoot guns. It's no big deal. And the only two who've earned it really were Brian O'Connor, who was an FBI agent, and then maybe The Rock. Those are the only two that like, oh, I buy it from these two. The rest of these guys were still in fucking VHS, DVD, VCR combos. Like, it's like, what are we doing? But this you've seen, like, okay, Donnie does have the brains. Does he have the brawn? Can he be that guy when he has to? Because he's kind of relied on others, even though, because I love the scene in the first one, he's showing him, like, this, full auto. Like, it's like, well, yeah, dude, he
Well,
was in the military. He knows what to do with a gun, but he doesn't have to.
I think obviously too with the introduction of like he works for the mob now or the mafia, there's you know, a very real possibility that like at some level of initiation he will have to kill someone. So he will have to like escalate to this next level.
Hmm.
Could be very organically worked into it. But I wherever he wants to take it, and I know Christian Gutierrez has basically said like three is ready to go. Like all they need is the green light from the studio, and he's like, and it will not take 7 years
And see,
to
well,
see another one.
and this is one thing I do want to say because I don't think we talked about this on our movie cast. This is where I do have to say, I don't, to their detriment or to their benefit, I don't think there is another studio out there that has done what Warner Brothers has done in so much as we'll give you the money, you deliver the movie, and you can put it out there. We kind of joked about it with Folly Ado, but Warner Brothers gave Todd Phillips all that money and he gave them Folly Ado, and it made nothing back. It was a bomb. But you know what? They said that's the movie you wanted to make. That was the deal. We're distributing it. So the fact that they've not tried to Shanghai this guy and be like, well, we're going to take this franchise over. This has to make money. They recognize, like, hey, that other one, I saved it in my notes that are at my thing at work, but it's a clip from a Den of Geek article, and it was just like, while not a critical success, the movie found a great life, whatever, and was a hit financially for it. I'm just like, yes, critics did not like the first one, but people who like heist movies and people who love to go to the movies in January like me, we loved it. And we were there for it because, like, again, Becky and I saw both of these first weekend. Literally, and that was just I didn't even want to go. She was like, I feel like I want to go to the movies. I was like, what do you want to see? I don't know, what's out? It looks like there's this Den of Thieves thing with Gerard Butler. You want to check that out? Sure, okay. And then like, oh, they're gonna rob the Federal Reserve? Okay, I'm in. And I didn't mean to be
And
there for
and
the
and
day.
here we
And
are,
here we
7 years
8 years
later.
later, 7, 8 years later. Yeah.
You got a baby.
I got a
uh,
baby.
we got Pantera.
We got Pantera. Gerard looks like he's put on a few from 300, but I know he was dealing with an ACL that was broken, and it was not a fun shoot. It went through. It's a pandemic didn't keep it down. The strikes didn't keep it down. I would love to have another one out in 3 years. I don't know. Last I checked, I mean it killed expectations for the first weekend. It kind
Well,
of reinvigorated them.
it was
Yeah.
uh number one at 15 mil. I don't even know if it's open everywhere internationally yet.
Hmm.
And obviously, action movies and heist movies do quite well internationally
Oh
compared
yeah.
to a lot of other stuff that we release here. Uh, so
And another thing
yeah,
we
I think it.
forgot to mention, I think you, well, maybe you didn't mention this. I thought you were talking about something the director said, but like, there is no like, oh, we're all here, but we all speak English. I love that everybody had their own language. They everybody spoke in their own subtitles. There was no, I have an accent. No, it's like, no, I'm speaking French. I'm speaking Finnish or whatever they wherever the guys were
And
from.
and again,
It
for
worked
a move,
perfectly.
and I know obviously in some of these cases they're cheating different locate. I forget where they ultimately ended up because I've heard him talk about like they went to France at one point chasing tax incentives and it ultimately didn't work out there, so they had to like completely like set up somewhere else. But just the move for like having a more international feel by virtue of where the story was headed anyways.
Hmm.
Um yeah, I like the idea that we can kind of go into different vibes and different subgenres of the heist genre as we move into different places. One other thing that had occurred to me while we're sitting here brainstorming is I was like, dude, I would like a cold heist, maybe in like the
Yeah.
Swiss Alps or something. And they got to do like a
Yeah.
motorcycle chase or like snowboarding or maybe that's too extreme sportsy, but something with a nice like scenic background, but like a lot of, maybe we go cold because we did the broad daylight, the heat of LA, and we did a nice like nighttime European heist here. Very clandestine, very cool, very smooth. So yeah, let's get cold with it. Let's take it blue and chilly and wintry. That could be interesting. I don't know. These ideas are free. You can let us know.
Okay, so as of what I'm looking at, yeah, I could dig it, but here's the thing. As of right now, I don't know how often the box office gets updated. It's at 32.4 on a $40 million budget, but I don't think it's opened everywhere yet. Um, but it says here that right after it opened, Gerard Butler came out and said, like, I will not wait anymore. Like he took, you know, he took partial blame for it taking all this time. Like he was kind of like about it for a little bit. Um, but it basically says that like um he already has the script completed. He's got two additional sequels. The third one apparently is going to begin in Africa and followed by another planned installment in Brazil and Southeast Asia. There we go. Each based off of real life heists, and they studio plans to get production going before 2027. So we're start of 25. Maybe they finally get everything finalized, get a deal done, and this year, into this year, they start shooting next year, and we get something same year, or possibly, you know, January 2027.
Or
In
28.
2 years.
I thought you said they said they were going to start in 27.
No, they're going to start production before 27. So I'm
Oh,
saying
okay.
like we get something nailed down and finalize the deal done now, like this year. They start back half of this year into next year filming. They go to post whenever 2026, and then bam, 27. We have another one in January.
All right. Well,
If we're keeping with the
we can
trend of putting
dream.
them out early.
We can dream. We
Yeah.
both had a great time with it. Uh,
Yes.
I did check the second weekend. It dipped down quite a bit at the American box office, but like I said, it's gonna open internationally, and I think it's gonna it's gonna definitely do what it needs to do. And I think like the first one, it's gonna be another round of like people like now that this one's out, going back and giving the first one a chance. Like I mean, again, it's been 7 years. There's a lot of people who missed the whole window of the word of mouth, et cetera, et cetera.
And
So
it
there's
was,
gonna be a
dude, it
whole
was
other
at
wave of that, and then
it
I
was
think when
sitting at
this
number
one
one on HBO Max for like two
absolutely,
weeks,
and that's
you
what
know?
I think when this one ultimately hits streaming, it's gonna have the same effect again, where it'll do well as a rental, et cetera, et cetera. It's gonna do what it needs to do to get us a third one. I'm very
Mhm.
confident in that. So we have that to look forward to, And here on this podcast, what you have to look forward to is some TV talk. We are right in the thick of the first part of 2025. We're finishing up some shows from 2024, but more importantly, uh, we have plenty to discuss. So on the next episode, we'll be boarding the TV arc, discussing The Pit, which is available on HBO Max. Or, excuse me, just Max, whatever the hell we're supposed to call it now. We're also going to chat a little bit about Severance Season 2 and maybe a little American Primeval over on Netflix.
Do we want to talk? Oh, I forget. You haven't watched Silo.
I have not, but
Oh my God, dude.
our former producer and dear friend, Mr. Nathan Hussey, out of the blue, sent me a text asking about the season 2 finale of Silo.
Give him my number,
Just that,
Jesus.
literally, just it was either earlier today or yesterday. He said Silo finale season 2. I said you're gonna have to ask Gav about that one. I said one of his faves. He's been on me to watch it. I said I guess this is the second kick in the ass I need to finally start watching it. And his response was just uh, slow burn, or it's fantastic, great slow burn. And I was like, all right, I'm on board. So yeah, hit him up on the gram if you guys want to talk, chat about Silo season 2. The two people that watched it. I'm kidding, kidding. But
A lot of
uh,
people watch it, though.
no, I truly I will be starting it because I've got some other stuff that's wrapping up. But I think those
Then
are
you're
the
gonna
three
talk
that
to
we're
mom about
gonna.
Twin Peaks. That's what you're gonna do.
Is
You're gonna
did
do like
mom
a
just start it?
mom told me tonight. I was like, "Have you watched Silo?" She goes, "Started Twin Peaks." I was like, "Oh," and she goes, "Yeah," because I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, an 8-month-old, or whatever, like 2 months when it was on. And I was working at the nursing home, and that was the thing every week. Well, did we find out who killed Laura Palmer? Who killed Laura Palmer? She's like, and I didn't get into it because I had children when it came out. So yeah, I'm watching it now. I was like, okay. Well, when you get done, she goes, well, no, because then I got the thing later that just I was like, the return. Yeah, she's like, wouldn't that be like the third season? Yes, mom, it would be like the third season. But I had this conversation with her tonight when we went to go pick up Mav because we dropped him off over there
Yes.
for a little bit. And so, like, yeah,
Weird
you should definitely talk to her about Twin Peaks.
weird
I told
thing to
no,
mention. Sorry, go ahead.
I told her to text you and I when because she's in episode 2, season 2. I said when season 2 ends, you text me and Noah your feelings. Just
She's
to
wait, she's already in season 2.
season 2, episode 2. I said, when that
That's
season ends,
fantastic.
you
Okay.
text your sons and tell them what you think.
Okay.
Because I don't think, because I'm gonna have to, I want to be like, because mom, that was it for 25 years. Can you imagine watching that shit live on television and then nothing for 25 years? What if you died in between that time and you didn't even know that there was going to be a third season? And then now you're there, rest in peace, wherever he is, whatever plane he's transcended to. Somehow you find out in the afterlife that David Lynch came back and did like a follow up to it. And then somehow in the afterlife you get to see it and you're like, well, that doesn't tell me anything. What? Sorry. That's what I wanted to say to her, but I
uh
didn't.
yeah,
That was my
weird
long winded way to tell you,
weird
mom, started
place
watching Twin Peaks.
to bring it up here at the end of the Den of Thieves Pantera episode. But yes, this is the first episode we've recorded since the passing of my favorite artist of all time, Mr. David Lynch. I don't know how we're going to uh, address it as a network and a podcast, but we're going to do something in some capacity over the course of this year or in the near future. But yeah, maybe that'll be it. Is talking to mom about Twin Peaks, which I think could be very interesting considering that she is we've talked about this many times, an even more hardcore, like just TV diehard than you or I. She watches so much stuff and has for so long, and kept up with so many different series and so many things that she loves literally would not exist without that show. So I think it'd be
Yeah.
very interesting to get her perspective all these years later, going back and experiencing it for the first time. So we should figure that out. Maybe do it in chunks. I mean, she's already through the first season, but maybe we break it into
Dude,
chunks.
that needs to be your first video on the Archive like web series. Sit down and talk to her, and you have my permission to use my text that I sent you as like the opening part of that video. Sorry about your boy, dog. dude was legend for show.
Appreciate that. Seriously, thank you to all of the friends and family members who reached out to me on the day. It's so weird, dude. Like condolences for me as if I'm a family member or something, but I guess I've been that evangelical about him for so long that yeah, Brendan was how I found out. I
Really?
was at work, I hadn't seen
Oh,
anything, and yeah, Brendan sent me a little thing and yeah. But yeah,
yeah.
sad, but
You,
also
you
just
did.
been go ahead.
You didn't respond to my text to the fact that he died on John Carpenter's birthday, and I'm living in a simulation, a fucking simulation. The next thing I got back was legit intermission in the
I did
Brutalist.
not note that.
They
And
weren't kidding.
yes, as we're speaking right now, it is now officially January 20th, which would have been his 79th birthday. And it also happens to be a different day. And I think my man was like, you know what? I'm good. I don't need
I
to
don't need
stick
to see
around
this
till
shit again.
Monday. I don't need to stick
I
around
don't
till
need to
Monday.
see this shit
I think
again.
that's what he thought. So
Yeah.
uh
Oh God.
RIP wherever you are, David. And thank you for literally everything. Uh Till next time, for the ArkV podcast, I've been Noah.
And I have been Gavin.
And we've been the Blanchard brothers. And we've officially found that it's true. The tiger can't change his stripes. We are Den boys, and we will always be Den boys.
We them
These
boys.
these
We them boys.
stripes, these stripes don't change. They don't bleed. They don't run. They don't whatever. Den boys for life.